And one possibly major story this morning. The major story remains the virus. The second story is what's going on in the American marketplace. And the third story is the Joe Biden administration going to screw one of our leading allies in the Middle East, the United Arab Emirates, which has been so central, along with Israel, to bringing in new stability to the region. Let me take them in order. It will take me two segments, the next segment and the third segment, to unravel for you what's going on the markets. It is no reason to panic. It is no reason to actually even change your investment profile. It's no reason to make trades. It's no reason to subscribe to Reddit. It's no reason to do anything except watch and realize that it's the same story that we have seen again and again and again of day traders who believe they are geniuses and end up broke. But I'll explain that next segment. I want to start with the virus. As of this morning, there have been 101 million cases of coronavirus around the world. I had to get tested yesterday because I've got a cold, and I think a cold is a cold, but if you're going to go out and see people, and I'm going to go out and see people this weekend, socially distanced, etc., you have to be able to tell them, I've tested, and this to be my second negative test in 3 weeks, but I went and got tested yesterday, because there are 101 million cases and 2,186,000 people have died. Thank you very much, Chinese Communist Party. 2 million, when you get to Maoist ideology, that's barely a blink. Mao is, usually aims for 100 million when they want to kill people, but for Xi Jinping, 2 million is pretty good. Now, the good news is the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine, in fact, works against the mutations found in the United Kingdom and South Africa. From the Wall Street Journal, a Pfizer laboratory study found that the coronavirus mutations identified in the United Kingdom and South Africa had only small impacts on the effectiveness of antibodies generated by the company's COVID-19 virus vaccine. That means continue to get the vaccine. Get it as soon as you can, even if you have to stay online. As someone described it, remember when you were 18 and trying to get free tickets to the big hot concert in your neighborhood by calling into the rock and roll station? That's what you got to do with a COVID-19 vaccine appointment. You just got to hit refresh. You'll get it eventually. Tony Blair, who we all recall as being America's ally in its darkest day of 9/11, has called on Boris Johnson to lead the drive for a global vaccine passport. I happen to think this is a very good idea. I think we also ought to be able to get not only a passport, but some kind of a wristband that shows you're vaccinated so people don't freak out when you are sitting down at a table or driving around without a mask or in a grocery store without a mask. Now, obviously, there are problems with that system. People could pretend. But I am counting on the greater good. I know we pay a lot of attention to the crazy people who won't wear masks and yell at people who make them wear masks. But in fact, most Americans want to get along and are good people. And we'll get the vaccine as soon as possible. It is in the interest of your family, your parents, your spouse, your children, your relatives, your loved one, and the people you work with to get the vaccination as soon as you can. Now, there is an interesting side story. In the European Union, which the United Kingdom wisely left with Brexit last year, the EU is demanding that the UK give the EU the UK vaccines that the UK produced from AstraZeneca. Now, AstraZeneca has committed the first 100 million vials that they make to the United Kingdom, which is in fact the way it ought to operate because the United Kingdom paid for the AstraZeneca, just like the United States paid for the Pfizer vaccine and paid not only for the Moderna vaccine, but to develop it. A lot of morons are out there saying Pfizer wasn't involved in Operation Warp Speed. Yes, they were. They took a guaranteed purchase. They developed all that cost. They wanted the money on the other end. They did a cost-benefit analysis. They said, we think we can do this, so we want all the money. We don't want to share it, but we'll take your guaranteed buy. Moderna did both. They took the R&D money and they did the guaranteed buy. But in Oxford, They did a guaranteed buy and they put money into the Oxford study, the United Kingdom did. So they're keeping their 100 million. And EU is completely paralyzed because they don't have the capacity that free market states like the United Kingdom did. Even though the United Kingdom was part of the EU until recently, it was post-Brexit that this arose, and post-Brexit that Boris Johnson got the deal done with AstraZeneca. So the EU now wants the UK's vaccine. The Telegraph's headline, how the UK's vaccine gamble paid off, and the EU left itself without a leg to stand on. Back in March, the story reads, the University of Oxford was on the brink of signing a deal with the German drug giant Merck to research and develop a coronavirus vaccine. The UK government stepped in and helped steer Oxford towards a partnership with British-based AstraZeneca, taking a huge gamble to fund the research and development of a vaccine that might prove useless. Instead, the Oxford vaccine became only the second in the Western world to be approved for use, and both the UK and AstraZeneca are now reaping the benefits of the deal that was struck last April. I believe it was the third, but I won't haggle. I think Moderna and Pfizer beat them. So Brussels ordered up to 400 doses of AstraZeneca, and that's great. But AstraZeneca is making it for the UK first, which is how the game is played. So in the New York Times, the headline is EU vaccine shortages snowball into a crisis. Tomorrow, our fridges will be empty, one European health official says as vaccines dwindle. Friends, this is the way the market works. If you put the bet down and you take the risk, you take the reward. This is going to matter in our second segment when I explain the GameStop madness. If you bet on the market, you're making a bet. It can go your way and go the other way. If you bet on Aaron Rodgers going for it on fourth down, you lost. If you bet on Tom Brady, you won. If you bet on AstraZeneca in the United Kingdom, you won. In the European Union, you should not have bullied the United Kingdom into leaving. But that's what you get. You got Brexit. Deal with it. You have to get in line, and by the way, the EU is not the worst place in the world. The worst place in the world are places like Brazil and Lebanon. Lebanon hospitals, according to the Financial Times, overwhelmed as country falls apart. At dawn on Sunday, the story reads, the moment that intensive care director Georges Joubeliakian was dreading finally arrived. His hospital in Lebanon ran out of breathing support devices called BiPAPs. It fell to his colleagues to choose which of two patients to treat with the one available machine. Now, that doesn't happen anywhere in the United States, thank goodness. But it is happening in the third world, and it's going to happen more because there are 101 million cases. And even if only 1% of them convert into the deadliest type that puts you in the EU, well, do the math. If you're a Steelers fan, 1.5 million cases in the EU. Now, the Washington Post has an opinion story by John Barry, who wrote The Great Influenza, which you remember a year ago, and indeed 13 months ago, I was screaming at you, read The Great Influenza. Read it. Understand what is going on. He's a distinguished scholar at Tulane University School of Public Health and Tropical Medicine. He writes, the coronavirus is mutating. Will our vaccines keep up? Even the best influenza vaccine, he notes, produced every year is only 60% effective. Will ours keep up? Thus far, the answer is yes. But a lot depends on you getting your vaccine as soon as you can.